There was a big announcement about the Disney parks around the world today. Disney announced that they are going to spend $60 billion. And that was supposed to get everybody really excited. Some people did. Some articles went out there and talked about, oh my gosh, look at the investing. Disney is ready to really, really give it their all. Well, folks, I'm here to tell you that this is actually probably a decrease in investment, and investors do not seem to be fooled as the Disney stock, well, is beginning to fall. We'll talk about it all right now. Hello folks, and welcome back to another video of excellence where we endeavor to explain entertainment, keep you ahead of the culture curve. Vash Sky of That Park Place and Theme Park Universe is here today. Welcome, sir.
Hey, I'm happy to be here, Pro. Thank you so much for having me on for this very, I think will be enlightening discussion for our audience here.
Absolutely, folks. And we are here to tell you the truth, and we mean it. And so when you go to these other sites, you go to these other places where they're talking about, oh my gosh, Disney is investing. Well, we looked at it. We know this stuff, top to bottom. This is what we do for a living. We're here to tell you. We get why the investors may have been spooked. Before we dive into it, though, let's do the disclaimer. Folks, this is not a financial advice channel. We're not here to give you financial advice. If you want financial advice, well, find your own financial advisor in your local area, someone who you can trust, someone who is certified, qualified, and reputable, and that would be the place to go. What we will do, though, is we will go to the news, starting off today with KTLA. Disney plans to pump loads of cash into its theme parks and cruises. We're going to show you the way that this has been reported in other locations. Then we're going to tell you the truth about it with our own reporting. This is by Christine Samra, and by the way, we mean no ill intent towards her. The Walt Disney Company is nearly doubling its investment in parks and cruise lines. That's what the company laid out in its securities filing on Tuesday morning for its Disney Park Experiences and Products branch. In the filing, it was revealed the company is set to spend $60 billion over the course of 10 years by investing in expanding and enhancing domestic and international parks and cruise line capacity, prioritizing projects anticipated to generate strong returns consistent with the company's continuing approach to allocate capital in a disciplined and balanced manner. Folks, let me laugh very loudly at that. This is a company who they have misinvested vast amounts of money. If you need proof of that, go take a look at Epcot. We won't talk about it here. There's a video coming out on That Park Place, the YouTube channel, that goes into just how badly they have managed their money with the parks. They are in the place they're in because they have invested foolishly, utterly foolishly into their parks. So that is where they are. But Vash, real quick, they're talking about this $60 billion over 10 years. Vash, how much money have they been spending on the parks in the past few years? How much would you estimate?
In the past few years, looking at some disclosures from various earnings reports and so forth, it's been about $6 billion per year. And obviously that goes towards capital expenditures, but it also goes to offset operational increases in terms of those costs, increase in labor costs, and so forth. So $6 billion, well, if you grade this out over a 10-year timeline, $60 billion over 10 years is about on pace with what they've been spending recently.
So what you're telling me is that this has been made into some kind of big hoopla all over the news, and what we're seeing actually is status quo.
Exactly. Well, it's very similar to what Josh D'Amaro has been doing actually at the last two big events, right? D23 Expo and Destination D23, with these kind of what ifs or potential right projects. They want to give the illusion that WDI is working on something real big, real massive. They want to give this impression to the media that Disney is investing all kinds of money in their parks. We've seen Bob Iger talk about $17 billion figures and all kinds of stuff. Well, Universal, on the other hand, they're committing themselves to actual projects that are in the works, that are in development, that are getting approvals from local cities and so forth. They're committing themselves to projects, not just dollar amounts.
Right. The ramifications of this charade that Disney is playing is about to come to full fruition when Epic Universe launches. Of course, we are now getting reports that Epic Universe is a theme park that has been planned out completely differently. They anticipate that this is a multi-day experience of going to this park. So folks are going to want to stay there 3 and 4 days just in this one park to experience everything. Totally different idea. Totally different design than anything we've seen before.
Right.
But Vash, what you're talking about here is that Disney continues to do this thing where they come out and they say, oh, look at Beyond Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. Oh, look at Disneyland Forward. Oh, look at yada, yada, yada. And then the next year, none of that has happened. The next year they come out and they say, oh, look at this other thing. And you start to see that some of those same concepts that were in the other thing have now been copied and pasted over to this new place. It's going to be this, They did this with Beyond Big Thunder. They copied and pasted the ideas they had for that into what the Disney or the Animal Kingdom expansion will be. And it's like, fool me once, Disney, fool me once. But Vash, let's walk through this. We're not here to be anti-Disney. We're not here to be hateful or black-pilled or anything else.
Sure.
We're just literally, this is numbers, folks, and you can't argue with numbers. It's just numbers. So let's walk through the numbers.
Sure.
$6 billion per year. If we average out $60 billion in 10 years, that's what they're claiming. You've said that's the same amount that they've been spending. Okay, so we're at even. Now let's find out, how is it that this is actually less investment in the parks? All right. Here's how we do that. Number one, the easiest way. The rise in inflation, right? And inflation means that the dollar buys less than it did before. We are in historic inflation, and we definitely have been in historic inflationary periods in the last 2 years.
Right.
So automatically, the purchasing power of Disney with their current budgets being equal to the old budgets, way less. So the capital expenditures, the expansions that you could assume to receive, way less, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Number two, walking through this, folks. Vash, how many cruise ships does Disney have currently?
You have the Magic, Wonder, Dream, Fantasy. That's 4. Then the Triton-class ships, obviously starting with the Wish. That's 5. 2 more Triton-class ships on the way. Try to say that 5 times fast, including the Treasure. That's going to be 7. And then Adventure that they recently acquired. That's 8. So right now, 5.
Okay. And they say in this report that they plan to double the cruise lines, right? And folks, let me say this too. Let me pause right here. If you're looking for a positive out of WDW Pro and out of Vash Sky, here's the positive. Disney knows their cruise lines are working.
Absolutely.
If this is a video about cruise lines, it's a totally different way that we would take this. We're talking about the parks today. Cruise lines are getting all the investment you could ever hope for.
Right.
But we're on the parks. Okay, so cruise lines, they intend to double that. At minimum, then, that would mean that they intend to do 5 new cruise ships over the next decade.
Right.
Okay. How much does a cruise ship cost?
You're talking about $1 billion roughly or so?
Okay, so $1 billion, and we know that. We've looked into this before on this channel, on the Valiant Renegade channel.
Right.
That's $5 billion, okay? $5 billion just in cruise ships.
Right.
Subtract that from the total amount that's supposed to be spent, okay? Now you're down to $55 billion. All right.
And we have to assume that it's going to be even more than that too, because, on a protracted timeline, inflation, makes costs go up. So your investment costs go up just from that alone. And then, each new cruise liner has to be more extravagant, bigger than the other. So we can assume that 5 billion figure is very, very low for that.
Okay. So let's grant that then. Okay.
Sure.
So let's say then that it's actually going to pull it down to somewhere around 52 billion, 50 billion, somewhere around there. Now let's do the inflation. And let's say that per the amount that they had in the past, then the actual value that they're getting with this budget in comparison to the budgets of old, right, of the most recent years, probably something equitable to $45-ish billion spread out amongst these parks. Now, one of the tricks that Disney does in this, and I say tricks in quotation marks, they're not actually tricking anyone. They're just saying things, and people are making assumptions that perhaps Disney knows they will make, but we don't hear. Disney presents this as if they own and run 10 parks-ish around the world, right? However, when you really look at these investments and you say, okay, you've got really $45 billion in comparison to what you used to spend. You've got $45 billion over the next 10 years, and we're subtracting inflation, we're subtracting cruise ships. Okay, you got $45 billion, down from 60, so that's already decreased. Yeah. Now, here's the issue. It is not just 10 theme parks. No matter how you square this, Disney, at least with Disney World, has far more that they have to deal with beyond theme parks. They have hotels, they have transportation, monorail, Skyliner, etc. And it doesn't seem to me that all of this is guaranteed to be CapEx spending. In other words, it's not guaranteed to be expansions. This is just incoming revenue to pump in. It's investment of any sort. So this could go towards new ways of extracting money out of wallets. This could, and by the way, I think in the reporting, that's exactly what they're saying when they say that they're going to focus in on those things which are most financially lucrative. I think that's exactly what they're saying. Vash, is there any other way that we can read this?
I don't think so, and I think you make an interesting point here. They compare this to the previous timeline of 10 years, right? That was what, 2012 through 2022, roughly, or so.
Yes.
Well, remember, that's when Shanghai it didn't exist for a long period of that time. Now it does. So whatever budget that you have, and remember they increased their
what a great point.
They increased your ownership stake in Paris. So whatever budget that you have for maintaining or expanding to your existing parks has to be factored into this as well. That paradigm is shifted from 10 years ago.
What a great point. Okay, so that's perfect because Shanghai, folks out there, listen to this. Shanghai is an investment that Bob Iger did. He believes that it's on par with what Walt did with Florida. It's Iger's Walt Disney World, essentially. But it's Absolutely. In Shanghai. And that means that it's completely operated in a different way. It's not under typical capitalism. And so the numbers that we get back out, and by the way, Disney doesn't own the majority of that park, right? They are completely beholden to the Chinese government there, completely beholden. And the way that people go to the Chinese park there, not the same as here. Here in the United States and in the Western nations, if you want to go to Disney World, you spend the money to go to Disney World. In China, where travel and transportation is highly, highly regulated, and it's all mixed in with the social credit system, you don't just go to visit Shanghai Disney unless they want you to. And sometimes you might go even when you don't want to go because you don't know what a theme park is. So it's all really, really fuzzy over there. It's a little icky to even talk about it. Folks, you're going to want to see the video from that park place, a special report, because we're going to talk about the Hong Kong Disney park there too. And it's way worse. I mean, it's a little creepy. But Vash, I want to show you how we're covering this. Now, I don't want to toot the horn too much, but take a look how we're covering this over on thatparkplace.com. This by Amelia Iglesia, Disney Parks investment announcement leads to stock drop. All right. Investment plans announced by the Walt Disney Company may seem impressive at first, but when per-year numbers are considered, they may not be keeping up with the cost of inflation. Investors seem unhappy. The Walt Disney Company has revealed plans to funnel approximately $60 billion into its theme parks and cruise lines over the next 10 years, signaling a substantial investment in a key segment of its business. Goes on to talk about the exact same thing that we have discussed. Despite investor concerns about the hefty investment, Disney remains optimistic about the future returns. The company cites past successes, such as the introduction of attractions like Cars Land, Star Wars Galaxy, Avengers Campus, yada, yada. Now, Vash, what you were talking about, which is key here, all of those investments were sans Shanghai, essentially, for a vast number of those years. That budget is now going to be stretched far thinner. Here's the end of this article, and folks, make sure you check it out on thatparkplace.com. If it's not bookmarked, think about it. While Disney has not provided specific details about how the $60 billion investment will be allocated, the company mentions a deep well of stories that remain untapped in their theme parks, i.e., let's get more of those IPs in the parks, right? Nothing original. Continue to funnel the franchises. It's worth noting that Disney claims it has ample room for further expansion. We know that. However, it's important to consider the market reaction to this announcement. Following the disclosure, Disney's stock price experienced a significant drop, causing concern among investors. This reaction underscores the importance of the company's ability to demonstrate a solid return on this substantial investment in the years ahead. Right. Vash, what makes this hard for us to understand how they're going to get the ROI, that return on investment, is just what you mentioned before about Epic Universe. Universal Studios is coming hard at Disney. There is nothing that we have seen of substance out of Disney parks that suggests that they can take on Epic Universe. This actually may be the first time when Epic Universe launches, probably not the first year, but the second year, could be the very first time that Disney World itself is defeated in terms of attendance by Universal Studios, because Disney has nothing to react with. You think Tiana's Bayou Adventure is going to take on Super Nintendo World when most people still want Splash Mountain? Think again.
Yeah. Oh, well, I remember doing a video on analysis of the attendance for the last couple of years, and examining whether or not attendance at Disney's parks has either increased, stayed the same, or recovered, let's say, from 2019, 2020, what happened there. And it's interesting because doing research into this, it was profound because every single park, and this includes minor parks like Knott's Berry Farm and some of those smaller ones, had recovered to 2019 levels, except for Six Flags won, but except for three main parks at Disney, and that was essentially Epcot, Magic Kingdom, and Animal Kingdom. Those were all kind of below those thresholds right there. Disney Hollywood Studios being the notable exception right there. Whereas if you look at Universal, they had eclipsed. Actually, not only met but eclipsed their 2019 figures there. So they're absolutely expanding. Their demand is growing. It even says as part of this 5-piece or this multi-piece slide here, they talk about 5 specific strategies. One of those is reach new fans. One of the reasons why I brought that up in the last show, and why I'm bringing it up again here, is that they know that they have a fan problem right now. They know that Universal is in that kind of doing that kind of successful market capture right there, and inculcating a new generation of fans to not necessarily be beholden to whatever Disney actually brings out. You have a generation of people going to these parks who are looking to Universal as the big number one on the block for them personally, right? They have IPs that appeal to them specifically and reach them on this kind of level here, and that's why I think Disney is attempting to match that with IPs of its own, and why that strategic target there is referenced specifically. It's interesting. You mentioned IPs and duplicating and copying. Well, they do that even here. Josh DeMaro says, we have a wealth of untapped stories to bring to life across our businesses. Frozen, one of the most successful and popular animated franchises of all time, could have a presence at the Disneyland Resort. Well, I happen to know that Frozen was but this close from being approved and announced at I believe it was the 2022 D23 Expo. Correct me if I'm wrong there.
No, you're right.
It didn't come.
What did they go with instead?
It looks like they're going with Avatar instead.
Well, and who knows, right? They could jettison that. We don't know, because they continue to make these kinds of changes. They make these big promises, and they change them.
They do,
so
but it's all a duplicate of what Hong Kong has already gotten. They're duplicating that out again. They've already invested that development R&D, and they're stretching that out.
Hong Kong, what a nightmare park. Folks, check out the video coming out at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time today, where we'll talk about Hong Kong over on That Park Place, the YouTube channel. But my gosh, that park is terrible. It is nightmare fuel. It is Five Nights at Freddy's come to life in resort size. Yeah. But anyway, and I mean that. But Vash, I'm not here to be horrible towards the Disney parks. No. There are parts of Disney that I enjoy still. At one time, I loved them tremendously. They're not what they once were, but this video, we're just breaking the numbers down. That's all we're doing. We're just saying, okay, these headlines out there about how much they're spending, yeah, it's the same. It's the same. Except that when you take out these other factors, it's less. And then all we're doing is saying, okay, folks, here's the reality. Look at what the investors are doing. The investors are they're taking an action that doesn't line up with what the news is telling you. So how is that possible? And here's the other thing. Folks out there, if you disagree with us, drop a comment down below and tell us where we're wrong. We're not going to say that we're not infallible. Drop a comment down below, and if we're wrong, tell us. Who knows? You may be on with us soon. I do want to say, though, Vash, on this deal about them trying to get new guests into the Disney parks, we've got a big announcement coming. One of the things we do here is we try to scoop new stuff on the channel. We've got the stuff. We're not quite sure when we're going to release the stuff as we do a little bit more investigating. But in terms of what Disney plans to do to get new guests into their parks, this also is heavily connected with streaming, heavily connected with what we've been hearing about the ABC sale. I know it's hard to even imagine how all of those things can be connected. We've got a big story. We'll bring it out maybe on the Pro Show this Thursday. That may be where we do it. If not, it'll be on Friday. We're working hard behind the scenes to get this all put together, but we're ready to bring forth something that I think is it's the big kahuna when it comes to what Disney is planning for the future. So folks, stay tuned. Vash, tell us about what you've got going on over there on That Park Place now.
Well, on That Park Place, we were releasing I know Jonas is hard at work releasing a slew of a series of videos here. from contributors all across, not even just the That Park Place network, but also people have attempted to say, hey, can I submit a video that could be uploaded on That Park Place? So we're actually kind of working our way through that. Honestly, it's an amazing collaboration with all of these people. Pro, Jonas has brought together here. It is absolutely fantastic, and we have some amazing stories in the can, and we're working right now to bring those out. Additionally, I'm also on Theme Park Universe with Theme Park Wizard. Well, it's interesting. We talked about on That Park Place the EIR, or the Environmental Impact Report, that was just unveiled, and that is undergoing the approval process right now for the Disneyland Resort as part of Disneyland Forward. And we had a little bit of a section in there, but we're actually going to be talking about that at great depth here on our next show. So if anybody's interested in what might be slated for Disneyland specifically going forward, maybe utilizing this $60 billion in some way, who knows, hopefully, we'll see, then you want to tune into that as well. That's at Theme Park Universe.
Absolutely. I hope folks out there understand what it is that we're attempting to do. There are YouTube channels out there that just give you the pixie dust, give you the feels. If Disney is a religion to you and you love it and you want to go and experience the euphoria that you get when you walk down Main Street, have at it. This channel and the channels that you're on, Vash, I think we're aiming to try to give it, in an unbiased as best we can. Here's the numbers. Here's what the business is at the parks. We want the parks to be great. And when we see that maybe some of these stories are not fully relaying what's the reality on the ground, then we talk about it. So, folks, if you like content like this, consider clicking the like button, share, subscribe. When you click it, you stick it to the algorithms. It's the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Tell us what you think. We cover your comments. We care. And don't forget, the Pro Show is this Thursday, 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We will be covering, we hope, if at all possible, this big new revelation of what Disney is planning to get attendance in the parks and much, much more. There's way more to that story. But, folks, wherever you are and whatever you're doing, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.
Make sure to catch the Pro Show Thursdays 5 to 7 Eastern Time. Entertainment Explained, The Culture Curve Conquered, live with Pro and all his friends.